Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? So this is a good time slot to be in, not before lunch or not right after, which I find it difficult. So there's an app for that. I know that is such a cliche tagline. Don't blame me for it. I didn't come up with that. I'm just a presenter. So we'll be fielding your questions via Twitter. This is our handle at Adobe Gal, and the hashtag is MobGal2014. So feel free to tweet your questions, comments. We'll be more than happy to respond back if the question should be answered. So my name is Kumar Rachuri. I'm the Director of Healthcare Innovation at Adobe Systems. I've been with Adobe about 10 months now. Prior to joining Adobe, I was with the state of Ohio for about 20 years almost. And half of that, I was Chief Information Officer in multiple state agencies in Ohio. Most recently, I was the CIO for the Ohio Job and Family Services. It's a triple combined agency. It's got about 15 different lines of business. They do Medicaid, social services, health and human services, and employment services. Just by the nature of the programs that they operate, it's a very complex organization. Accounts for 40% of the IT footprint in Ohio, about 25,000 nodes on the network across 88 counties in Ohio. I was there for about almost 4 years in that role, and had an ample amount of opportunity to weigh in on so many technology decisions. And as my presentation here will show you, mobile and social are among the top initiatives for any public sector CIOs as well as the private sector CIOs. So this is my favorite graphic in the deck. You know, this talks about no matter where you are, whether it's on the street, in a mall, in your office, anybody that can detect your presence, you are a target audience. And they target you with whether it's coupons, news, headlines, whatever it is that you subscribe to, and sometimes even for the things that you have not subscribed to. It depends on how aggressive they are in their marketing campaign. But how many of you can tell me a practical application of this in government? We're not even thinking about this just yet in government. We are not thinking about engaging our citizens proactively. Oftentimes, our citizens are trying to figure out how to get in touch with us. And they feel fortunate if we serve them timely. But I want you to think differently. Think about your own experience. When you try to buy things, it doesn't matter where you are. You're buying things on your mobile phones, going to Amazon, going to eBay, whatever it is. But when it comes to government, oftentimes we all have lowered expectation. And that's not fair. But we are the public sector leaders. If anybody is going to change this, that is us, the people that are in this room. And if you were in that keynote by Sanjay Poonen and Scott Patterson, and that is the challenge that they've given out to the state employees and people who work for public sector, whether it's the state, county, local. So my presentation here, I'm basically setting up the backdrop for Kevin Schmidt, who's one of our solution consultants. He's going to walk you through a demo of what the Adobe technologies can do when it comes to mobile apps and the mobile technology for state and local governments. So I'm going to walk through some of these slides really quickly because I'm on a time limit for 20 minutes and they're going to yank my mic after that. So here's a graphic that really talks about trends in technology, you know, whether it's a regular phone, electricity, stoves, dishwashers. If you look at it to the far right, you see a couple of steep lines, right? Almost like a 90-degree lines. And those are your smartphone, your cell phone, and the close third is internet. That's the adoption rate. So this is kind of a sad little graph that talks about what's happening to the print media. And look at what's happening to the print media from 1950 to 2010. In 2000, right around the same time as the millennium term, right? There's a sharp drop off on the print media. We all pretty much, I'm sure 100% of the people in this room have canceled their newspaper subscriptions. And here's another graph that actually talks about the internet adoption, whether it's broadband, and you'll see over a period of time between 1995 and 2010, how steep the growth rate is when it comes to internet access using broadband. And here's another one that talks about the internet use and broadband by income. As the income levels go from 10K all the way to 150K, you see the usage increase. But the most interesting thing about this slide is it's not about the 90% adoption rate at the 150K income, but look at what's happening below 10K. You still have 42% people. And that's broadband as well as internet access. And here's another demographic slide. This one talks about education and also the locale, are they urban, suburban, rural, and the broadband usage, also smartphone. And you'll see the delta between declining broadband usage and adoption towards the smartphone. And this one here is age group for cell phones as well as smartphones. And you'll see the increased adoption between smartphone and cell phone depends on the age group that the people are in. I'm going through this really quickly because this is a very well-known fact. I don't really need to explain each and every bullet because we all know, we live this, we breathe this every day, right? So here's the interesting thing. 63% of the people use their phones to access the internet, email, texting, chatting. But the most interesting thing about this is 34% of that 63% people, their mobile phone is the only device that they have to access internet and email. It used to be landlines, right? We all got rid of landlines because of the cell phone usage and the pricing that's came out. Same thing is happening with the internet access. People are getting rid of their broadband and the cable and the DSL accounts. If they have a smartphone that's got enough processing power, and if they got that one that they can take care of their internet access for use case, they no longer need a broadband at home. And they no longer need a PC or a laptop that's chained to their desk at their home. And that's what this slide here talks about. For the first time, you will see in 2013, PCs and laptops sales were down by 10%. But you'll see the increase with the tablets in 2013, about 68%, and also smartphones, about 42%. So, how many of you here are aware of Gartner? Okay, show of hands. Good. Same thing in Ohio. Same thing pretty much in every state I go to. They're like, Gartner is like the Bible for us public sector folk, right? And this is 2008 CIO top 10 technology priorities according to Gartner. So you'll see business intelligence, enterprise applications like ERP, CRM, servers and storage, legacy modernization. Those are all the challenges back in 2008. So let's fast forward this to 2013. The only thing that you'll see here is business intelligence is still number one. And that's your analytics, big data, understanding your business and utilization. But look at what's going on, the stark difference between 2008 and 2013. You'll see on the right-hand side now, number 2 is mobile technologies. And number 3 is cloud computing. That's software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and the collaboration technologies. Security is obviously always there, but it dropped down to number 9. So even in public sector, people know that these are the priorities, right? Mobile technologies and collaboration. So what does that tell us? We need to be able to engage our constituents and citizens effectively and efficiently in all settings, regardless of what device they carry and regardless what platform it is. I was looking at a website called Flurry last night, and this is really interesting, right? So about 10 to 15 years ago, the mantra used to be webify or die. Do we still believe in that? I do, but to a certain extent. Just web enabling your systems and your applications is no longer enough. They need to be responsive. They need to be adaptive. And you need to be able to serve the same applications, whether it's a mobile device or a tablet or a phablet or a laptop. So the challenge is oftentimes when you spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort in building these applications, why would you want to have different teams trying to build the same application for different platform and different device? That is no longer acceptable in the world that we live in. You want to be able to build one application one time, leverage the core assets, the digital assets of that application across any platform, any design that you're trying to serve your core citizens and the constituents. So the answer, in my opinion, is if you are one of those government agencies who have prioritized the initiative to webify everything you have, make sure those websites are now mobile enabled. Make sure the design is responsive, and make sure it's adaptable. And then you take the same assets and same design, you mobile enable that by either delivering that via HTML5 in a mobile app, or publishing that to an app, delivering that in an application manner. So this is one of my favorite graphics, right? So this is St. Petersburg Square. Back in 2005 is the top picture, and 2013 is the bottom one. And in the bottom picture, those are not candles. They are digital devices, right? People are taking pictures. They're tweeting, they're Facebooking, they're putting them on their LinkedIn. This is the world we live in, right? And this graphic speaks very loudly to that. But look at the guy in 2005, lower right-hand corner, with a little flip phone. That's my visionary guy. We hired him at Adobe. But instead, what do we give to our citizens? How many of you remember these days where you have to go in, stand in that line for 4 hours, 5 hours, meeting wonderful strangers that you never care to? And look at that little graphic where people are sitting, and that is the county agencies providing benefits to the citizens, whether it's healthcare, employment services, whatever that is. But that's still, we laugh, but that is still true today in many of the states, in many of the counties. But where does that change begin? Where do we start that innovation? It has to start at the state level before it can be down to the county level and the cities. Please, if there's anything you could do, change this in your state. I was pleasantly surprised in the keynote when I was listening to Scott Patterson talking about the mobile application gallery in California and about 50 apps. While that is good, I really expected to see a lot more than 50 because this is California. And when people think of innovation, they think of California. CalPERS is one of my favorite agencies. They have a lot of good things happening over there. And the primary engine behind their mobile apps is Adobe, and I'm proud to say that. So now what do? We did a survey with all the C-level folks, not just in California, but across the 50 states in the United States. And some of the things that we found out are very interesting. Most C-level folks are talking about maximizing the effectiveness and the usability of the public-facing web, being creative, innovative, all the buzzwords that you want to hear from leadership folks, right? So you dive deeper down into the survey, what we find out is only 57% of those C-level folks believe that their department is effectively reaching and engaging their target audience. I would say it's a little padded, but I'll take that. And 34% of them believe that they don't have proper tools to reach to their citizens, to their constituents effectively. And look at this one. Here they talk about 38% believe that they can improve the efficiencies in their organization by optimizing their web with mobile. And 38% also believe mobile apps is the way to go. And 26% believe website personalization. All good things. There is executive awareness. This is the right time for us to capitalize on that interest and awareness to be able to turn things around in public sector. So how does Adobe help? You know, most people, when they think of Adobe, what do they think of? PDF, Photoshop, Acrobat. Well, until I started my employment here at Adobe, I used to think that was their core. That was their bread and butter. I was using some of their other technologies, but little did I realize the breadth and width of what they bring to the table. So the first thing I said to the salesperson that was working with me, it's like, you cheated me. You never told me how many other things Adobe is good at. You just concentrated on one of your biggest selling items. Imagine things that I could have done differently in Ohio. So Adobe is dedicated to changing the world through digital experiences. Digital government is an initiative that's near and dear to our hearts. I'm going to build this slide out real quick. So really, I mean, we have hundreds of products at Adobe that do a lot of different things. It depends on what your profession is, what is it that you're trying to accomplish. But it really comes down to 4 different core areas. We believe in making, managing, mobilizing, and measuring the experience. We're a company that focuses on customer engagement, customer experience, but to do that in an effective and efficient manner. So the engagement piece of that is front end. That's your user experience thing, right? That's your UI. And the efficiency piece is what happens after you fill out that mobile form and you hit submit. What happens in government? We don't provide any services unless you fill out a form. I would say 100% of the time. When that form is submitted, it has to go through a certain workflow before the eligibility can be determined, before we serve that citizen. Once that eligibility determination is done, we then reach back out to that citizen. And then we'll say, okay, you met the requirements, or you still need to send me this paper, that paper, and this paper before we can provide you the service. So that's the efficiency piece, is that automated workflow that happens behind the scenes after the citizen submits the form. And the effectiveness piece is where the data analytics come into play. If you were in that meeting this morning, that was one of the 4 things that they were talking about at the keynote, data analytics. You could be serving the best thing in the world, but if you don't know that you are serving the best thing in the world, or the worst, how would you go about fixing it? Or how would you go about realizing your return on the investment? So analytics is extremely important. So at Adobe, everything now is cloud-based. We are moving away from perpetual to term license models. And everything that we have is divided into 2 different portfolios, right? So we have the creative cloud on the left, and we have the marketing cloud on the right. It's kind of the left brain and the right brain kind of thing. I hate using the word marketing cloud because it doesn't really fit in government. But on the government side, it's the digital government thing. It is the digital government experience that we're talking about, the automated process flows and workflows and efficiencies and effectiveness. So Kevin will go deep into this. This is the Adobe Acrobat Experience Manager 6.0 platform. This is a platform-based design. It's got 5 different modules. First one is sites, and the second one is assets, and then the communities, forms, and apps, right? Sites is the websites. Assets is the module that controls all your digital assets, whether it's an asset that you've used in your website or a mobile app. Communities is the social, is the corporate Facebook equivalent building module. And forms is what we talked about, the automated process flow and workflow. And apps is the one that Kevin's going to do a deeper dive in actually doing a demo how the mobile apps work with the Adobe technologies. So here's the third-party analyst reviews of Adobe technologies. We have the web content management, social management, cross-channel. Everything you see, we are in the upper right-hand quadrant. And that's where you want to be. Those who's familiar with the Gartner Magic Quadrant model, you would realize that. With all of that said, I just want to play this 1-minute clip before Kevin comes out here. This clip talks about the analytics and how Adobe can help you there. Okay, it's not being very cooperative.
Peter, come take a look at this. This Look at this.
The numbers, they keep getting bigger and bigger.
Clicks are off the charts.
Yeah.
Yoshi, it's Walter. We're back.
I need more trees. More, please. I'll get you more trees.
Hey, take a look at Woodpole.
Everything about Woodpole right now. Everything about it.
She really loves that thing.
It's a funny clip, but actually drives the point home. You want to know what you're doing. You want to know how you're reaching your customers and your citizens. Thank you. And while Kevin's setting up his machine, I'll take any quick questions you might have for me. Any questions? I know I'm good. I'm not that good. Really? Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Bear with me here for 1 second. Get everything. All right, let's see what we got here. Wrong side. Okay, so Kumar kind of went through some of the general overviews about the state of mobile. What I'm going to take you through is the actual AEM apps, which is Adobe's solution for building and managing mobile applications. Okay, so basically, Kumar kind of hit on this, but the Adobe Experience Manager is sort of the tool to manage all of your constituents' experiences, whether it's acquiring them, generating the reach, building the loyalty through these types of mobile applications. So there are two ways you can do this with AEM apps. And the one we're going to look at today is PhoneGap Enterprise. Is anybody familiar with PhoneGap? One person. Okay. So basically what PhoneGap is it's a cross-platform tool that you use to build mobile applications using HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Adobe acquired a company called Adobe out of Vancouver that made PhoneGap, and then we immediately open sourced it and gave it to the Apache Foundation. It's actually Apache Cordova, if you're familiar with that at all. The other way to do it, and we're not going to really touch on this, so if you want more information on it, please see me afterward, is the digital publishing suite. So this is if you have sort of magazine, more type content, so people like Vanity Fair, GQ, they all publish magazines on mobile devices using the digital publishing suite. Okay, so what's the business need here? Obviously, current app development and management practices are a little bit unsustainable. You've got hundreds of different Android devices. You know, iOS now has what? iPhone 4, 5, 6, 6 Plus. So there's tons of different devices out here. Multiple platforms. Now Windows Phone is starting to pick up a little bit of steam. I think BlackBerry still exists somewhere. Does anybody still have a BlackBerry? Nobody has a BlackBerry in here. Good. I held their new device. It's about this big. It's a square. It's really odd. It still has a physical keyboard, and no matter how hard you try, you can't reach the upper corner with your thumb. So obviously, with all these different platforms out there, you've got different developers required. So if you want to develop for Android, you're looking at Java. If you want to develop for Apple, you're looking at Objective-C. Windows is .NET basically, and BlackBerry is on a version of Java. So we're starting to get lots of different devices, lots of different people needed to develop these applications for all these different platforms. So obviously, this can also be challenging once you launch an app. Just because you put an app in the App Store doesn't mean people are going to actually use it. I found that out the hard way sometimes in some of the stuff that I do, building games and things. Just because you put it out there, people aren't going to download it. And if they do download it, how often are they going to actually use it? So there's some statistics up here. Most users have anywhere from 10 to 50 apps on their devices. with the average user having about 41 applications. I don't know if you guys have that many or not. And obviously people are using these apps for short periods of time. So you're standing at a bus stop, you're walking down the hallway, not watching where you're going, whatever, it depends on what you're doing. This is why something like Flappy Bird. Did anybody play Flappy Bird? It was a really annoying game that was very addictive, but it only took a short amount of time to play. So you got 30 seconds here, a minute or two there. People are going to engage in short amounts of time. So obviously improving that app experience for the short amount of their time, and there can be difficult and time consuming. You have to figure out really what it is that they want. Obviously marketers, or in this case, government agencies don't have the tools to manage and sort of improve that in-app experience in a timely fashion, because if you make a change, you got to reload it to the App Store, it has to be reapproved depending on where you're going through, and so it's very time consuming. And obviously if you're developing an app that way, the developers have to make those changes, and that becomes also time consuming as well. So basically what we're going to look at is the Adobe Experience Manager for applications using PhoneGap Enterprise. So obviously there's native and hybrid. So with PhoneGap you can still access native functionality. You can access things like the accelerometer, GPS, the camera, anything you could access if you're doing native development. And if there isn't something that's available to you, you can always write a plugin for that specific platform. Of course, then you're starting to get away from the general idea here, which is making this sort of write once, run anywhere. So then the mobile app management is built in. It's a web-based management system where you can go in and edit the app, add content, review the workflows from the application, and basically control all the app through the web browser. So we'll take a look at that here in a minute when we get into the demo. There's also integration with analytics, so the Adobe mobile services, so you can see how people are using the app, what devices they're on, is it crashing, where are they getting to. Basically, you can discover how people are actually using their app once they've downloaded and are interacting with it. Okay. So some of the benefits and key capabilities here. Obviously, you're building these apps with HTML and JavaScript and CSS. That's a much easier skill set to find. It's a much easier skill set to learn if you need to learn it, versus having to write it in native code. Okay. Obviously, like I said, you can incorporate all these native device features. So the camera, the accelerometer, the notifications, push notifications, everything you can pretty much do on the native platform you can do through PhoneGap. Obviously here you're able to leverage some best practices. Adobe recommends using AngularJS as the framework for building your applications. It's what we build our reference applications in, so if you were to use this, there are a couple reference applications that you can look at and to figure out best practices. And obviously, like I said, it's based on those open source technologies. So everything that we're working with here is based on open source technology. So Adobe is very big into working with the Apache Foundation. The Adobe Experience Manager is based on, I think there are 4 main open source projects, and I think there's about 25 other ones that are included along with it. And we're very big in giving back in terms of contributing to the Apache frameworks and improving these products that are underneath the hood. Obviously, you can reduce your time to market here with only having to use one technology with the HTML. Obviously, there's a ton of pre-built components as well that come out of the box, but you can also write your own components. So when you purchase this product, you do get access to some advisory hours with Adobe. So if you were to buy Adobe apps or AEM apps, we're not just going to kind of throw you to the wolves. There is support. You also get some help setting up and making sure you're architecting the application right. We don't want you to fail and have a product that doesn't meet your needs. Obviously, we're going to supply bug fixes, support for plugins, and some faster response times than if you were to use the open source product. Obviously, we can centralize all your app management and testing. So the one management interface in the Experience Manager is how you're going to manage all these apps if you have more than one. You can distribute these apps directly, so there is an application you can install on your device, whether it's Android or iOS, and run the app directly, so you don't have to worry about signing the application just to do demos. If anybody's tried to build an app and distribute a demo distribution, you have to have the person's UDID if you're distributing to iOS, so you can sign it and give it to them and it will work. So this app kind of works around that. Basically, it's an app you install on the device, and then you can just run the apps in sort of a demo mode within that application. Okay. So one of the other things you can do here too is, as I want to say markers, but as managers of the application, you're able to manage the content in the app and then just push out the content changes. So if you're adding a new section to the site, or you're adding new graphics or any new content, you can push all that out without having to run an update to the App Store. So you can decide who gets to manage these pieces of this application. You can create tasks, give permissions to certain users for editing so they can control certain parts of the app. And you can manage those alongside your web and your mobile web experiences too. So you can leverage a lot of the same assets in your mobile app as you would the mobile website, as well as your main website. Okay. And like I said, this is a big one. You can make all these updates without requiring users to update their app. So you don't have a new version every time you want to make a change or add some new content or add a new section to the site. You can add completely new screens, new pieces of content, whatever it is that you need to add, and then just push out that update through what's called Content-Sync, and I'll show you how that works here in a minute. So you can obviously repurpose a lot of this stuff. You can develop the app once and then obviously tailor it for multiple scenarios. So if you're working on different devices or different looks and feels, you can certainly run those across different geographies and different customer segments. And of course, what we're looking at is optimizing that journey across all channels. So if someone's interacting with you on their website, the mobile site, or the mobile application, you're working in one environment, one tool to manage all of those experiences. Okay. And of course, the analytics that come into play here, you can see things like how many launches, how many were first launches, where were they launched from, how many users, any of these data that you want to see that allow you to make better decisions in maintaining that app or updating that application. Okay. And of course, all of this is managed within the Marketing Cloud, as Kumar mentioned before. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the demo here. It's always better to see than it is just having someone PowerPoint you to death. So this is the Adobe Experience Manager, obviously the login screen. There are, wait a minute, you're not going to be able to see that because it's not, I'm going to mirror my displays real quick, that way I'm not having to do that. Let's see here. And of course now I'm going to get horrible resolution. Let's see if it'll go up any higher. That looks about it. It's as good as it's going to get. All right. I'll just have to fix this here. Okay. So this is the login screen here. So we're going to manage and maintain all the apps from in this web browser. So the way this works is there's the concept of an author instance and a publish instance. The author instance is where you do all your editing, making all your changes, and then those changes get pushed out to the publish instance, which is the customer-facing piece. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. It's waiting. There we go. So this is the main page for the Adobe Experience Manager. And you can see I've got projects, sites, apps, publications, forms, so assets, everything that is available in the Experience Manager or in the Marketing Cloud is here. So I'm going to come to apps. And I can see I have this app here called the Geometrics Outdoors application. And basically it's an app for selling gear, tents, if you're in the outdoors, so all sorts of different things here. So different content, different pages, or sorry, different sections of the application here. Okay. So one of the first things I need to do is, let's get in here, take a peek at the app here. And you can see up here, I've got all these different options for the application. So there are two different ways you can build these apps. You can build using PhoneGap Build, which means you don't have to have any of the products installed on your device. So you don't have to have Xcode, you don't have to have Android, you don't have to have anything installed on your desktop. It'll build for you in the cloud, and then you can just directly download the application. The other way is the command line interface, and this is basically utilizing the tools on your desktop through the command line to build the application. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to edit this application's properties. Okay, so let me come in here. Okay. My So one of the concepts I mentioned was the content sync. So what I need to do is I need to tell this particular application, what server are you going to reach out to pull down these updates when there are updates. So in my case, I'm just going to put it here, localhost. I'm running on port 4503. Okay, so I'll make that change. Go back to properties. And I'm going to download these assets so I can actually build the application. Okay. Grab this content here. So basically now what I'm setting up is the ability to build this application. So you still have to build the application. There isn't like a submit directly to the App Store. So you can see I've got my PhoneGap application structure here, so all my content, everything I need to build the app is here. So now I can build that from the command line. Let's make this a little prettier here. Okay, let's see where we're at here. Okay. All right, so I want to go into the one we just downloaded, which was, let's see here. I'm in the wrong folder. I'm in the trash. I don't want to do that. Where am I here? Bear with me here for a second. Okay. Okay. So the only thing I have to do here now is just use the PhoneGap command to actually build this, and I'm going to tell it I want it to build iOS. Okay, so it's going to look for the local environment. It's going to find that, okay, there are particular plugins that aren't installed, so it's going to install those plugins. And hopefully our internet connection is not going to kill us here. So while it's doing that in the background, because I have a feeling the connection to pull down here is going to be rather slow. I'm going to show you how we make a change to this and then push that out to the content, or push it to the publish server. So let's be done here. I'm going to come in here and I need to add some information into the reviews section. Okay, so I'm going to create a new page here, basically I'm going to use this particular page or this particular template. You could have multiple different types of templates if you wanted to. And we'll just call it tent and create. Okay. So now I've created a page. I'm going to skip the tour, thank you very much. Okay. And I'm going to start dragging out some components. So if I want a text component, okay, and an image component, and then I can add the text here. Say our tents rock. Okay. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find my asset to add to there. So I need to find a picture of a tent. Let's see, where is one here? I think there's one down here a little further. Yeah, let's keep going. A little bit lower here. So all the assets that you have available for your website and for your apps are all basically right here. So here's our tent. Let's drag it out here. Okay, so we're done. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to publish this page. Okay, now when you hit that publish button, it's going to push everything to the publish server. You can certainly workflow that, so there's an approval process behind it, so someone can't just come in and create a page and then push it out to the app. Okay. So I'm going to come back over here to my main area, or back to my section here, the reviews page. Okay. Let's go back up a level. If I come in here, I need to edit this particular page. No, not that one. I need to go back a level. Back to the reviews page. Okay, don't do that though. Okay. Sorry, hang on. I need to edit this page here. And basically what I need to do here is I just need to drag out the menu list component. And for this I want to tell, okay, I want you to make a menu list based on the children of this particular page. So under the reviews now we can see that we have our tent section that comes up, and if we were to move into there, we'll see the reviews for the tent. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and publish this page as well. And it'll tell me here in a second when it's done. There we go. So it's now published. And if I come to our publish server and I come to the content sync area, let's refresh this. Okay. I have this information here that it is able to, we can just update that cache. And basically what that does now is it prepares the content that we just created and just edited as a download package. Basically it's a zip file that it produces, so in the app, when we're published and we go out and we click refresh to load the app, it'll bring down all that new content for us. So that's completed, so we can now see that it was last updated today. Let's see if we finished building here yet. Yep, so our build succeeded. So one of the things we can do is we can run this in the iOS simulator. Okay, so I built for the iOS platform, so if I come into here, I'll now see I have an Xcode project that I can open up here, and then I can tell it which particular device I want it to try to run on. So we'll just go with iPhone 6. Let's go ahead and build that out. Okay, the build succeeded, and now it's going to launch our mobile app in the iOS simulator. Wow, the iPhone 6 is huge on the screen. Okay, so obviously maybe we should pick a smaller device, but with this resolution. So we can see this is what the mobile app looks like. In this case, we've got our menus. If we wanted to update, we can update. All of our information is here. So if I want to look at gear, hiking, I can start to come in here and start to see all of the information we have on these particular products. And we can edit any of this content at any point in time. Okay, so we can find our nearest store, our location, and then this of course would use the GPS if you had it. So obviously as in a simulator you're not going to have access to some of these native things, but it would use the GPS to find where you are, tell you where your local store is. In this case it could be where is the local office that I need to go to, so you know, register to vote, or what's my nearest DMV office, anything like that. And then of course if you want to update the app, we can go ahead and update it, and then what that does is it goes out and fetches those content changes that we made and is going to bring them down into the application. So if we come into reviews, we'll see tent, and our tents are up. So we are able to push that content change out just by updating it in the application, pushing it up to the publish server, and then bringing it down. So I can add all sorts of things that way. And he's telling me I'm out of time. So thank you guys very much. If you have questions, I'll be sticking around if you want to ask anything. And Kumar and I'll be around for a bit. Otherwise, come see us at the Adobe booth right outside the door here. Thank you.